let me give you some background first. MK Ultra was a program that started in the early 1950s, and it started by accident. We had a source who turned out to be a fabricator saying the Russians are doing mind control experiments. We're like, oh my God, we're going to be behind the Russians. All right, we got to do our own mind control experiments. The Russians are doing ESP experiments. We said, oh my God, we have to hire all the psychics in America and try and get them to do mind control. So we came up with this thing that was called MK Ultra. And it was composed of several different sub operations. MK Chipwit, for example. So we were doing things like, what would happen if we gave people LSD and they didn't know it?
In this recent interview, John Kiriakou details the CIA's most shocking secrets, from the infamous MK Ultra mind control experiments to the hidden realities of enhanced interrogation and torture. He exposes how the agency's quest for control led to reckless experiments on unsuspecting Americans, cover-ups at the highest levels, and a culture where truth is often the first casualty. Kiriakou also shares how his own commitment to truth put him behind bars, where he used CIA survival tactics to navigate life among killers, conmen, and corrupt guards.
I'll start off by saying I have no proof of my position, but I feel very, very confident that Jeffrey Epstein was a Mossad, what we would call an access agent. An access agent is somebody who gives a foreign intelligence service or any intelligence service access to targets that they otherwise wouldn't have access to. For example, if you are a foreign intelligence service and you want to know what Bill Clinton says about an issue, or Prince Andrew, or Bill Gates, or anybody else that went to Epstein Island, you're not going to be able to recruit Bill Clinton. He's not recruitable. Or Bill Gates. So you do the next best thing. You recruit someone who has regular, easy access to them. And then if there's a little blackmail thrown in at the same time, it makes the quality of your information that much better. Otherwise, why would Jeffrey Epstein have audio and video in literally every single room of his house, including the bathrooms? Why? For what? Who does that?
Nobody.
And another thing is, where did his money come from? I mean, there were these allegations in Vanity Fair that he was in some sort of gay relationship with Les Wexner, the Ohio billionaire. And Les Wexner gave millions and millions of dollars to be his tax advisor. Les Wexner says that that's not true. Les Wexner's wife says that that's not true. So that money had to come from somewhere. I believe that he was working for the Israelis. You know, the black books are out there. One of them was offered for sale at Alexander Auctions. It's a Maryland auction house, and it did not meet its reserve price of $100,000 about 6 weeks ago. So the books are out there. The names in the books are out there, but not all those names necessarily, were doing anything illegal or inappropriate. The lists, in a perfect world, sure. Yes, the Justice Department would make them available, or an enterprising investigative journalist would file a Freedom of Information Act request and he would make them or she would make them available, but we haven't gotten there yet. I really do believe, maybe naively, that eventually we will see those lists. Oh, twice. Close. The first time was in Athens in 2000. I was stationed in Athens as the counterterrorism center representative. And I was there specifically to work against a group called Revolutionary Organization 17 November. We called it 17 November, 17 Noemvri, 17N. There were others, Popular Revolutionary Struggle, and then all the Arabs had a presence there. The Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, the PFLP General Command, the Democratic Front for the Liberation of Palestine, Abu Nidal, the Libyans, everybody was there. Bombs going off all the time. But specifically, we were there for 17 November because they had murdered the CIA station chief, two DOD defense attachés. They had shot and killed a U.S. Air Force tech sergeant. Poor guy was just doing his laundry in the basement of his apartment building. They blew his brains out. They killed the Turkish ambassador, the Turkish deputy ambassador. They killed the minister of communications, the minister of finance, the governor of the central bank, the prime minister's son-in-law. Very, very deadly group. So I was very, very careful about my own security. I took surveillance and surveillance detection so seriously that the CIA made me a surveillance instructor after I got back from Pakistan a couple of years later. But anyway, this was a group that was so deadly. They had murdered 28 people. They had wounded hundreds. And not only had they never been caught, we were never able to identify a single one of them. They would do these assassinations in broad daylight in front of 2,000 people, and nobody saw a thing.
The twisted legacy of MK Ultra stands as a testament to the CIA's willingness to cross every ethical line in the name of national security. Kiriakou recounts how victims were drugged without consent, families were destroyed, and most of the evidence was deliberately destroyed to keep the program in the dark. Inside federal prison, he applied lessons from the agency: admit nothing, deny everything, make counter-accusations, to survive and manipulate both inmates and staff. From orchestrating elaborate cons to turning dangerous criminals into unwitting allies, Kiriakou's experience reveals a world where power is everything and trust is a liability.
Let's try that. See what happens. Well, who should we do it to? Well, let's do it to our own people. Just see what happens. Well, I'll tell you what happens. They start jumping out of windows and off of roofs of buildings and committing suicide. They're like, that didn't work. Okay. Why don't we hire prostitutes? This is true. We'll hire prostitutes in San Francisco. We'll have them pick up Johns. We'll bring the Johns back to a safe house that we control. We'll dose them with LSD. We'll tie them up and interrogate them and see if they'll tell us their deepest secrets. No, they just went nuts. That's all that happened. And then we released them, and then they're just wandering the streets of San Francisco nuts. Then they said, how about if we come up with a germ and we spread the germ all around San Francisco and see if people get sick? So they came up with this germ. They waited until a really foggy day when the air is very heavy and it sits on the ground, right? Because what's fog? It's a cloud that sits on the ground. And within days, 11 people went to hospital emergency rooms with this rare strain of upper respiratory infection. We're like, hey, now we can do that in Havana, in Moscow, in East Berlin. But none of this led to, reading minds or Manchurian candidates, or none of it worked, but it was brutal. And we made people insane. We made people commit suicide. We split families. And this was monstrous. Well, it became public in 1975 in the Church and Pike Committee hearings on Capitol Hill. So it lasted from 1952 to 1975. And Chairman Church, senior senator from Idaho, specifically ordered the CIA director not to destroy the documents related to MKUltra. He immediately went back to headquarters and destroyed 80% of the documents. So we only have a little historical understanding of what happened with MKUltra. Everything else was shredded. People ask me all the time, is there MKUltra today? Honestly, I have no idea. It's not called MKUltra, but it's impossible to know what the CIA is doing on these mind control issues. Now, they're doing other things technologically that we know thanks to WikiLeaks and Josh Schulte and the Vault 7 revelations. We know that they can take remote control of your car and make you drive off a bridge. Any car that has a computer in it.
Seriously?
Which is every car, unless you're driving a 57 Chevy or something. We know that they can take any smart TV, and turn the speaker into a microphone so that it broadcasts what's being said in the room, even while the TV is off. Another thing that they did was they infected computers domestically, which is illegal. But then in the code, they embedded lines of code written in either Farsi or Cyrillic so that they could point, say, no, it wasn't us. It was the Russians, the Iranians. They did it. Look, the code. They forgot to translate these lines of code. They're still in Russian and Farsi. No, it was us. So we don't really know what they are doing. And I'll say this. I'm going to caveat this by saying I've been out of the CIA for 21 years now. That is a lifetime, technologically speaking. It's a different world today than it was when I left the CIA. God knows what they can do that we haven't found out yet. It's impossible to say. They're looking for people who have sociopathic tendencies, not sociopaths, right? Sociopaths have no conscience. They're unable to feel guilt. You don't want a sociopath because sometimes they can't stop themselves and they will feel utterly remorseless after having killed somebody. And as a result, they blow through the polygraph because they don't have a conscience. People who have sociopathic tendencies do have a conscience, but are also willing to work in these legal and moral and ethical gray areas. And I'll give you an example. In the interview process, I was with like 2 other guys and a woman, and the instructor is giving us this oral exam. And he said, let's say you are a case officer overseas and you get a cable from headquarters telling you that they need the latest economic data from Indonesia. You then go to meet the Indonesian economic officer and you take him to lunch and you have a great time, and you take him to dinner, you have another great time, you introduce the wives, they hit it off, you spend time, go on vacation for the weekend, your kids are playing together, everything is going perfectly. But you do this for 6 months. And then you realize this guy's really not recruitable. There's really nothing that he needs from you. And there's no weakness that he has. He's not a drunk. He's not a gambler. He's not an asshole who, has fallen foul of his boss. He's just a guy. But headquarters really needs the data. So what do? And the guy raises his hand. He says, you double down. And you do it for another 6 months. Spend more money on the guy. And the woman says, maybe you get the wives more involved. Get the wives to get closer, and then you can work it through the wife. And I'm listening to all this like, what? So I raise my hand. I go, you break into the Indonesian embassy and you steal it. He goes, that's exactly what you do. You break into the Indonesian embassy and you steal it. Don't waste another 6 months on this guy. He's not going to give you anything. That's a sociopathic tendency. A normal person wouldn't voluntarily say, I'm going to break into the Indonesian embassy and steal their documents. I would. Maybe you wouldn't. But that's what a sociopathic tendency is.
John Kiriakou's journey from CIA insider to federal prisoner unveils a shadow system where truth is dangerous and survival demands cunning. Whether exposing mind control experiments or navigating the brutal realities of incarceration, he shows that the U.S. government's greatest secrets are often hidden in plain sight, and that those who speak out face consequences most can't imagine. In the end, Kiriakou's story stands as a warning. The systems meant to protect us are capable of almost anything to protect themselves.